Ubuntu OS. Launch EC2 instance with Ubuntu OS. Launch EC2 instance with Ubuntu OS. Connect to EC2. Connect to EC2 using putty. Install Apache 2 server inline in EC2 OS. Install Apache server in EC2 Ubuntu OS in EC2 machine which is having Ubuntu OS. Then deploy one HTML static website in Ubuntu machine in EC2 machine. Deploy static website in EC2 machine. Static website means HTML pages. If time permits, then I will show you how to transfer files from Windows OS to Linux OS using WinSCP. Transfer files from Windows OS to Linux OS using WinSCP. So these are the topics that I want to discuss for today. Are you guys able to follow this? Are you guys able to follow this? Are you guys able to follow this? Come on. Yeah, let's get started. Okay, go to EC2 dashboard, launch instance, launch one new instance. Now here, Amazon Linux is available and normal Linux is available, Ubuntu. I'm using Ubuntu from day one. Okay, let me go to Ubuntu OS, select it, T2 micro, configuration instance details, nothing we are configuring. Going with the default, storage also going with the default, tags also nothing, security group also I'm not adding anything, review and launch. Click on launch. It is asking, do you want to create a new key pair or you want to use the existing key pair? I want to use the existing key pair. Already we have downloaded one key pair for JRTP 19. I have that key pair, I can use that. Launch instance. Instance is launching. Now go to that instance. You can see that the instance is getting started. We can give the name of the instance. We can give you a name for that. JRTP 19 VM. JRTP 19 Ubuntu VM. I'm using Ubuntu OS for that. JRTP 19 Ubuntu OS. Okay. This instance is started, guys. You can see the IP address also for this. Public IP is available. We can copy this and we can connect to this instance. By using putty. Let me go for putty software. Now give this IP address. Okay. Go to SSH auth browse. Let us load our JRTP 19 key pair file. JRTP 19 key pair. Here I have Linux VM key pair. I'm using the existing key pair. Now IP address I have given, appearance, I'm changing the font size to display for you clearly. Open, accept. As it is a Ubuntu machine, the username is Ubuntu. Now clear the console. See the present working directory. Ubuntu. Who am I? Ubuntu. Am I able to connect to the Ubuntu now? Am I able to connect to the Ubuntu by using putty? Yes, I have connected to the Ubuntu by using putty. Okay. Now, to install any software in the Linux OS, we need to log in as a root user. To install any software in Linux OS, we need to have root user account. To install any software in Linux OS, we need to use root user. We need to use root user. To switch from normal user to root user, we will use sudo command. We logged in as a Ubuntu user. To switch from normal user to root user, we will use below command. We will use below command. What is that command? Sudo su. Sudo su. Currently, who am I? Now, currently I logged in into my Ubuntu machine with which username? Currently I logged in into my machine by using Ubuntu username. How to switch to the root user? Sudo su. I switch it to root user. Who am I? Now see this. What is my username now? Root. So do I have permission to install the softwares now? As a root user, can I install the softwares in my machine? Can I install the softwares in my machine as a root user? Okay. Which one I want to do? Before going to install anything, first you need to update your current package. Sudo apt update. Current packages in the Linux machine will be updated with this command. Sudo apt update. Once we logged in as a user, let's update the packages. Once we logged in as root user, then we have to update existing packages. We have to update the existing packages. For that, we are going to use a command called sudo apt update. We are going to execute a command called sudo apt update. So update is completed. Clear. Next one, let us install Apache. Sudo apt. Let us install Apache. Sudo apt install Apache 2. Sudo apt install Apache 2. Now it is installing. Do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. Now it is going to install Apache 2 server in our Ubuntu OS. Execute below command to install Apache. Execute below command to install Apache 2 server in our Ubuntu OS. What is the command name? Sudo apt install Apache 2. Sudo apt install Apache 2. That means it is going to install Apache 2 server. It is going to install Apache 2 server in our machine. Sudo su, sudo apt update, sudo apt install. Like this, there are commands we are executing. Sudo apt install Apache 2. Now you see Apache 2 installed. Now Apache 2, which version it is installed, we can check it. Apache 2 version. Server built Apache 2 2.4, which is installed. Apache 2.4.41 Ubuntu. It belongs to Ubuntu version. For Ubuntu OS, this is the latest version of the Apache 2 server. You got it? Now, how to start this Apache 2? To start this Apache 2, we'll go for sudo systemctl start Apache 2. Sudo systemctl start Apache 2. Apache server is started. Execute below command to start the Apache 2. Okay. After installation, verify the Apache version. After installation, verify Apache 2 version using below command. How can I do that? Apache 2 version. Start the Apache server using below command. Start Apache 2 server using below command. Okay. What is that command? Sudo systemctl start Apache 2. Check the status of the Apache 2 using below command. Check the status of Apache 2 using below command. Using below command. What is the command we will use to check the status? Sudo systemctl status of Apache 2. Apache 2. Now let me execute that command. Sudo systemctl status of Apache 2. Sudo systemctl status of Apache 2. So Apache server is running or not? Now check it, guys. Is this Apache server running in my machine? Is my Apache server running in my machine? Yes, Apache server is running in our machine. Now here, our Ubuntu machine is acting as a Apache server for us. Inside this Ubuntu, we installed Apache server, so I will call it as my server. I will call it as my server. Now, so what we have done now is, we have taken AWS EC2 instance. We have taken AWS EC2 instance with Ubuntu OS. With Ubuntu OS. AWS EC2 instance we have started with Ubuntu OS. Is this clear? Now, inside this Ubuntu OS, now I am having Apache 2 server. I'm having Apache 2 server. I'm having Apache 2 server. Right? Apache 2 server is available. So can I say this? Now my Ubuntu machine is acting as a server for us. Can I say that my Ubuntu machine is acting as a server for us? Yes. Now, what is the IP address of our server? Take this. This is IP. Public IP. Public IP. This is the public IP address of our machine. Where this machine is running? In AWS data center. So my EC2 instance is running in the AWS data center Mumbai region, availability zone 1, which is having Ubuntu OS. In that Ubuntu OS, I have a Apache server. So now, in this machine, one server is running. So if I want to access this machine, or if I want to access this server, I need to use this IP. I need to use this IP. Now, guys, see this. I'm going to my browser. I'm typing this IP, http://IP. I'm trying to access this machine from Windows. That means from outside. From outside, I'm trying to access this machine. Is it accessible or it is not accessible? Am I able to access that machine, EC2 instance from outside? Am I able to access that computer or am I unable to access that computer? Can you guys tell me? This site is reachable or this site is not reachable? Ritu Singh, could you please confirm? Am I able to access that Linux machine, or that Linux is not reachable for me? That Linux is not reachable for me. The reason is security. AWS is allowing everybody to access your machines, or AWS will not allow everybody to access your machines? AWS is providing security for our machine or not? AWS is providing security for our machine or not? Yeah. Now we have done this setup. We have done, by following the above steps, we have done our setup, our machine setup with Apache. By following above commands, or by using above commands, we have done one VM setup with Apache server. By using above commands, we have done one VM setup with Apache server. Try to access that server using IP. Try to access that server from Windows machine browser. Using IP. Now, this is the IP address of my machine. URL. Note. we cannot access directly. We cannot access EC2 machine from outside directly. From outside directly due to security constraints. Due to security constraints. Is AWS allowing us to access that machine, or AWS not allowing us to access that machine? Is AWS allowing us to access that machine, or AWS not allowing me to access those machines? AWS not allowing me to access. Now, in order to access, in order to provide the access for this machine, we need to configure a security group. We need to allow all the HTTP requests coming to this machine. Now see here how I am going to do that. Go to security groups. Go to security groups. There is a concept called security group. Now here there is one security group called my group. There is one security group called my group. I'm going to configure that here. I'm going to configure that here. EC2 dashboard. Go to the instances. Go to the instances. Go to the instance. Go to the instance. 19 JRTP instance is running for us. 19 JRTP instance is running for us. Now, open this instance action, instance setting or networking, change security groups. Change security groups. Currently, is there any security group available? One default security group is available. One default security group is available. With the default security group, are we able to access our EC2? Are we able to access our EC2? We are not able to access our EC2. It is not allowing the traffic. Now, go to security groups. Go to security groups. Create a security group. Create a security group. I'm creating the security group, my security group. What is the name I am giving? My security group I am giving. Inbound rules. Outbound rules are available. Inbound rules are available. Inbound rules means what incoming traffic we need to accept. Inbound rules means what incoming traffic we need to accept. Outbound rules means what outbound traffic we need to accept. This is called as inbound, IB. This is called as outbound. Inbound and outbound security. Now what I want to tell to my EC2 is, hey EC2, if any HTTP request comes to you, you allow that request. If any HTTP request comes to you, you allow that request. Currently, from the browser, I'm sending a HTTP request. Is that EC2 accepting my request or EC2 not accepting my request? EC2 not accepting my request. Now tell me, if I want to allow HTTP request to be processed by EC2, do I need to configure inbound rule or I need to configure a outbound rule? I want to allow the HTTP request. I need to configure inbound rule or I need to configure outbound rule? Inbound rule I need to configure. So I'm going to create one security group with the inbound rule. Add the rule. Here HTTP. What I am adding here? HTTP. IP address can be anything. Anything. Now add that rule. Now once rule is added, HTTP rule is added, IP can be anything. Create the security group. Now my security group is created with a name called my security group. My security group contains what? One inbound rule with a HTTP protocol. Any request comes from any system. A request comes from any system, any IP. If any HTTP request comes from any IP, that should be processed by my EC2. Now go to EC2, attach the security group for our EC2. Select the EC2 which we have. Select the EC2 which we have. 19 JRTP. Actions, networking, change the security group. Now add my security group. I have created one security group called my security group. Add the security group. Assign the security group. Now security group is added. Now refresh. Are we able to access the server now? Now see here, when I send a request, once the security group is added, am I able to access my machine? Apache to Ubuntu, default page is opened. So that means when HTML file is available, we are able to load that HTML by sending a request. Earlier we were not able to access, now we are able to access. Why? Earlier we were not able to access the IP. Earlier we were not able to access the Ubuntu OS. Now we are able to access the Ubuntu OS. How come we are able to access the Ubuntu OS now? Right? To allow, we can't access EC2 machine from outside directly due to security constraints. To allow the traffic, for our EC2 instance, we have to open HTTP port. We have to open HTTP port. To allow the traffic for EC2 instance, we have to open HTTP port. Create a security group with a HTTP port. Create security group with a HTTP port and add that security group to our EC2 instance. Then it will allow all incoming HTTP requests. Okay, security group inbound rule. Security group inbound rule we have to add. With the HTTP protocol. Once we have done this, once I send a HTTP request to my IP, it is working. This is one HTML file. Good. Can we modify this HTML from where this HTML file is coming? It is located at where www.html index.html. This content we are seeing from this index.html, which is available in this location. Can I modify this file now? Can I modify the index.html? Can we modify the index.html, which is located at where folder, where directory, www directory, html index.html. Let me do some changes to this HTML. Copy this. Cat location. Index.html. I am overriding the content. Welcome to, I will do like this. H1. Welcome to Ashok IT. I am closing this H1 tag. Now I am writing one more thing. H2, Best Software Training Institute. In Hyderabad. Right? H3, attend the trainings from real-time working professionals. Upgrade your skills with our industry oriented trainings. Now like this I am giving as H3. Now Control D to come out. Yes, I have modified index.html. Now refresh. Are we able to see my content? Now? Can you access this IP, guys? Can you access this IP from your system? Send a request to that. That is my server, EC2 server. In the EC2, I have Apache. In that Apache, my index.html is running. Can you access that IP? Is it working? Is it working for you? So HTTP traffic is allowed for my machine. Now tell me tomorrow, these things will done by whom in the company? Installing the servers, setting the applications, configuring the security groups. Who will do these things? DevOps people will do. Now you understand how the deployments will happen in the real time with the cloud platform. So tomorrow whatever the application you developed, whatever the application you develop, are you going to deploy that, or DevOps team will be deploying that? DevOps team will be deploying that. So you understand how to install Apache server, After adding the security group, try accessing above URL in the browser. After adding security group, try to access the server using below URL. It will display one HTML page in the browser. That HTML is located. That HTML page is located at which location? Where www.html/index.html. That HTML page is located at where www.html@index.html. If you want, you can modify that also. We can modify the content of this HTML. We can modify the content of the above HTML. We can modify the content of above HTML page. Okay. So this is the command I have executed. To modify the content of that, I have executed this command. Got it? Cat of where www.html@index.html. Now you see, I have added the content. So what is the cat command is going to do? I have explained the cat command. What is that cat command is doing? To overwrite the file content. We will use the cat command. Already the file is having some content. I have replaced that content with my content by using cat command. Is it clear now? How to install the Apache server in the Ubuntu and how to access that server from our Windows machine. Now, can I deploy one static website? Guys, I have done one static website yesterday. Let me show you. Yeah, static website 1. Where is that? Static website 1. 1 second. I have done one static website yesterday. Let me open this. Open with the Chrome. Yeah. Can you see that one static website is there? Let me take this website. I'm keeping my files here. I have a index.html open with Chrome. Now, can you see our website is loaded? A static website is available. Now, which is a single page application, Ashok IT, Software Training Institute, learn from working professionals about us, meet our team and our plans, our prices, our services, and our count numbers and our contact details. Get in touch with us. Submit your request. And we have a static website. If you click this one, you will get some social media icons. And if you click this one, you will get the menus. Contact us, you will go to here. Services, you will come to here. Pricing, you will come to here. About us, you will come to here. Home, the home page will be displayed. Now, so here, this is my static website. This is my static website which contains only HTML files. But for this static website, there are some assets: CSS, fonts, image, JavaScript, plugins. So many things are available. Now, if I have only HTML, can I run this application? Or along with the HTML, I need some assets also? Only with the HTML can I do this? Or along with the HTML, I need some assets also? Along with the HTML, I need some assets also. What are the assets? CSS files, image files, CSS files, image files, styles. I want that assets also. Now, the assets are available in my Windows system. So now I want to deploy them in the Linux machine. I want to deploy this static website in the Linux. Can you tell me how can we deploy this website into EC2 instance? Index.html file is available. Assets are available. Asset CSS are available. And fonts are available. And JavaScript available. Images available. Plugins also available. Bootstrap plugins I am using. Okay. Now I want to deploy this application into my Linux machine. So I need to transfer the files from my Windows machine to Linux machine. Are you guys able to understand? I want to transfer the files from Windows machine to Linux machine. How can we transfer the files from Windows to Linux? Using WinSCP. WinSCP is the software we can use to transfer the files from Windows machine to Linux machine. Okay? Download and install WinSCP software. Download and install WinSCP software in Windows OS. WinSCP is used to transfer the files from Windows to Linux or Linux to Windows. Using WinSCP, we can transfer files from Windows to Linux and vice versa. Now, I have a static website in my local. I want to transfer that static website to Linux. Okay. Now, go here, go to the browser, you download WinSCP software. Download WinSCP for Windows. It's open source, guys. Official website of WinSCP. You just go here. WinSCP download. Download WinSCP. You can click on this button. Now, you can download that WinSCP and you can click on that button. Now, once you have downloaded, go to that machine. Go to WinSCP. Putty is a CLI. WinSCP is a GUI based. In the video, I have shown you what is WinSCP. Now, I'm going to connect to that WinSCP software. Now, this is my WinSCP. So, connect to this WinSCP by giving your IP. What is your public IP? This is my public IP of the machine. Username is what? My username is Ubuntu. Password. Do you know the password? Or you don't know the password of that? We don't know the password. We have only PPK file. We don't know the password. We have only PPK file. So what we need to do? Come on. What we need to do? I'm going to click on the advanced button. SSH, authentication, upload the private key. It will identify the password. Okay. Now click on OK. click on OK. So I'm giving the IP of our machine, EC2 machine IP address I'm giving the username as Ubuntu, and I'm going to advanced folder. There I'm uploading my private key. Click on advanced, go to SSH authentication, upload our PPK file. Click on OK, click on login. Now, yes. Perfect. Are we able to connect to the EC2 machine by using WinSCP now? Are we able to connect to EC2 machine by using WinSCP? Yes. Go to this Ubuntu root directory. Go to where folder. Go to www. Go to HTML. Can you see index.html available here? Where it is there? Where www HTML. That is what I told you. It is available inside where www HTML. That is the page we are seeing in the browser. When you access my EC2 instance, that is the index.html is loading. Now I want to deploy my static website. So can I keep all my files here? Index.html, assets available in my, this left side part is my machine, Ashok IT 01 DevOps static website. This is the example I'm explaining to the DevOps people. Now I have a static website in my system. Now I want to deploy my static website into my EC2 instance. That is a Linux machine. How can I transfer the data? From my machine to Linux, from my Windows to Linux? For that I am using WinSCP. Which software I am using for that, guys? I am using WinSCP to transfer the data. Let's try to transfer, drag and drop. Index.html file is there in my Windows. I want to keep that in the Linux to deploy. Now drag and drop, override. Is it allowing me to do that, or it is not allowing me to do that? Permission denied. That means I don't have the right permission for this HTML folder. Do I have the right permission? Do I have the permission to store, or I don't have a permission to store? I don't have a right permission. For this HTML folder, my Ubuntu, I logged in with which user in the WinSCP? I logged in with the Ubuntu user. For the Ubuntu user, do we have the right permission to that folder? We don't have the right permission for that folder. So then what we need to do now? We need to provide the right permission. How can we provide the right permission? Execute this command. Sudo chmod 777 read write permissions for where www/html-r. That means I'm giving the right permission for that folder. I'm giving the right permission to that folder. Now it is having a right permission by using sudo command. Sudo chmod. Chmod is used to change the permissions. Chmod command in the Linux is used to change the permissions. I have changed the permission. Now replace it. Permission denied. But error occurred. Permission stamp. Skip. Yeah. Now give assets also. Transfer the assets also. Fine. Am I able to transfer the files from my Windows to Linux now? Am I able to transfer the files from my Windows to Linux? Yes, I am able to transfer my files from Windows to Linux. I logged into my WinSCP using Ubuntu user. Ubuntu user don't have the right permission. So that's why I have executed a command to give the right permission. This is sudo chmod 777. For this folder, I want to give the right permission. Now go to EC2, refresh. Is my website ready? In the Linux machine? See this URL, you access it. Beautiful. Guys, now are you getting the clear picture how things will happen in the real time? So if you just know how to write the Java program, can you survive as a developer? These are all things you need to know, man. If you just know the Java, then you cannot survive. How I came to know all these things? How I came to know about all these things? It's a project work. This is how we will do the work in the companies. We need to work with Linux OS, we need to work with the servers, we need to work with AWS cloud, we need to work with the databases, we need to work with the DevOps tools, we need to work with Java, we need to work as front-end developer, we need to work at, that means we need to become a all-rounder. We need to become a all-rounder. Now, can you see my website is deployed in the AWS cloud? Can anyone access my website now? Can anyone access my website now? With this given IP address, with this URL? With this URL, can anyone access my website now? Is it running in my Windows machine or is it running in the Linux OS? This is running in my Linux OS. Where is that Linux machine available? Did I purchase the Linux computer? Where is my Linux computer now? Which Linux I am using? Ubuntu Linux I am using. Ubuntu OS I am using. Where is that computer? Where my application is running? Can you tell me where my application is running now? In the AWS cloud. AWS people provided EC2 instance for us, for rent, EC2 instance. In that EC2, by using that EC2, I have created an Ubuntu OS. In that Ubuntu OS, I have installed Apache server. Then in that Ubuntu OS, I kept my static website. Then I have started that. Now, I got this URL. If you access it, my website is ready. My website is ready. My deployment is done. My project is up. I have hosted my website. This is called hosting a website. This is called hosting a website. Samjhe? Now, using WinSCP, we can transfer the files from Windows to Linux and vice versa. Now, connect to login into WinSCP by giving Ubuntu OS details. By giving Ubuntu OS details, IP and username. IP and username. Password. We don't have password of EC2. We don't have password of EC2. Hence, we will use PPK file. We will use PPK file. Now, what we need to do is, when you go for that, you just go to advanced and upload the PPK file. Under that, click on advanced, below password, click on advanced SSH authentication, upload PPK file. Upload PPK file. Okay. Next one. Once we logged in, once WinSCP login successful, once WinSCP login successful, transfer static website files into Linux, into Ubuntu machine, in below folder. In Ubuntu, in below folder. Where is that? /var/www/html. Now, once it is done, if you don't have the permission, execute below command. Note, if we don't have right permission, it will not allow to transfer the files. Then execute below command to give right permission to Ubuntu user. What is the command that we are going to execute, guys? Sudo chmod 777/www/html-r. So with this command, you will get the permission. Once it is approved, after this command execution, transfer the files. after this command execution, transfer the files from Windows to Linux. Once we have transferred, then you access it. Index.html file is executing. That index.html is my static website. So, are you guys able to understand the procedure? Yeah, let's read this command, read these things. What we have done today? I have launched one EC2 instance with Ubuntu OS. I connected to the EC2 instance using putty. So first two steps you are pretty much clear because we are doing from several days. How to launch EC2 instance with Ubuntu OS and how to connect it to EC2 using putty. So install Apache server in EC2 machine. And deploy static website in the EC2 machine. Transfer the files from Windows OS to Linux OS using WinSCP. So what are the steps we have done? To install any software in Linux OS, we need to use root user. But currently, putty we used and we connected with Ubuntu. So how to install a software? To install that software, we need to use sudo command, sudo su. That means we are connecting as a root user. Before installing any software in the Linux, you just update your existing software. Sudo apt update. All the packages in the Linux will be updated. Once these packages are updated, then you can install Apache software. Sudo apt install Apache 2. Once the Apache 2 is installed, you can verify the Apache version, Apache 2 -version. Then install the Apache by using sudo systemctl start Apache 2, sudo systemctl status Apache 2. So here these commands: logged in, connect, switch to root user, update the existing packages, install the Apache, check the Apache version, start the Apache, check the status of Apache. Whenever you have done these things, can we access that? No, we need to add a security group with the inbound rule. What is that security group with the inbound rule? Whatever the traffic is coming to the EC2, it is not allowing because of security. So we need to tell to EC2, hey boss, if any HTTP request comes, you just allow. If any HTTP request comes to you, you just allow that request. You just process that request. For that, I need to configure inbound rule. Security group inbound rule with the HTTP. After creating that inbound rule, I'm attaching that security group to my EC2. So any HTTP request comes to that EC2 will be processed. Then once it is allowed, when we access that IP, by default in the Linux, we have one index.html file in some location. That is where HTML index.html. This is the location. By default, HTML page will be there. We can modify that content. I have modified that content by using cat command. Cat space. This file name I have modified. I just added my h1, h2, h3 tags. HTML tags I have added. After adding these things, if I refresh my browser, I'm getting that HTML file. But okay, that's static HTML file only. I don't want to display the just text. I want to give you one website feel. So that's why I have done one static website deployment in the Linux. How I have done the static website deployment in the Linux? Now I have set up one project in my local with a name called static website 1 index.html. In that I am using some images, I am using some JavaScript files, CSS I am using. I have the static website in my local. So static website is having a HTML page. For that HTML, we have some assets like images, styles, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap files are available. So in order to run this static website, I need this HTML and I need the assets. So now the data is available in my Windows machine, but I want to deploy them in the Linux machine. So in order to transfer the data from the Windows to Linux, we are using to transfer the files from Windows to Linux, we are using a software called WinSCP software. Okay, once you logged in into WinSCP, you can do the transfer. How to log into the WinSCP? Let me show you once again. How can we log in into WinSCP software? Yeah, I closed it. Now again, once again, I'm going to open WinSCP. Now you see, how can I connect to the WinSCP? Now this side. Now new host name. What is the IP of our EC2? See this public IP. Copy this IP. Go to WinSCP. Host name. Username is what? Ubuntu. Password. Do we know the password? We don't know the password. Then how can I give the password? Click on advanced SSH, go to authentication, upload the private key file. We have already having that file. Upload that file, click on OK. Login. Now, I connected from my Windows machine to Linux machine by using WinSCP. At the time of explaining you log monitoring, I have explained to you that WinSCP software. Now I am using that WinSCP software only. Now, home Ubuntu. Now go to the location where you want to deploy that HTML files. By default, HTML files we will be deploying into where folder, where directory. Inside the where we have www, web, then we have HTML. Here I copied my data. I just dragged and dropped it. Drag and drop. Okay. Now, when you are doing the drag and drop, if you don't have the permission to execute, then give the permission to that folder. Because we logged in as a Ubuntu user. Ubuntu user don't have the right permission to that folder. Then we need to give the right permission to that folder. Once we give the right permission, then by using this command, you can provide the right permission. You can give the right permission. Okay. Sudo command chmod 777 where www.html-r. I'm providing a right permission to. I'm providing right permission for that folder. Now you can transfer. The files from Windows to Linux. After transferring, access the project. After static website files are transferred, after keeping static website files in Linux machine, access the URL in browser. Now you can see our website. Where is that website? Yeah, this is our website. You can see that the website is running in my Linux machine. Are you guys able to follow? This? Now you can see our website is running. Our website is running. Is this clear? Guys? Can you create your own static website using HTML? It is a normal dummy HTML. You can create your own HTML also. Anything, just for demo purpose. Are we able to deploy that or not? Okay. Can you guys practice this before coming to tomorrow's session? Come on. Both hard hai. Kya hard hai guys? It's very easy. I have given the step by step. After following this document also you can't practice, huh? After giving these steps also you can't practice, huh? Now, someone is asking how to delete an instance. Agam Krishna, you select the instance, actions, instance state, stop and terminate. Stop means you can reuse the instance. Terminate means that instance will be deleted. That instance will be deleted. Stop means instance will be stopped. Terminate means that instance will be deleted. Okay. Please practice this before coming to tomorrow session. In the tomorrow session, I will explain you how to install Java in the Linux machine, how to run the Java program. I will tell you how to install the Java in the Linux, and I will tell you how to run the Java program in the Linux. Because the next service we are going to learn is S3 in the AWS. So to work with that S3 buckets, I am going to use the Java in the Linux. So I will tell you how to install the Java in the Linux. Okay guys. Is it clear for all of you? Fine. Please practice these things before coming to tomorrow's session. Yeah, fine.
Jadi yang kata mereka itu ada